welcome to Writers Blockbusters, the show where we treat the final edit of the movie like the script. I'm one of the hosts, Bob Rose, at Thundergrunt Bob on every stupid social media that exists. And right now, one of the guys is going to introduce himself. Whoever speaks first.
I'll go. I am Jimmy George, a screenwriter and script consultant, and my Twitter handle is at Jimmy R. George. The other ones, I don't know. I mean, it's not at Jimmy R. George.
Oh, Jamie?
I am Jamie Nash, and I am a screenwriter and the writer of novels like The 44 Rules of Amateur Sleuthing and Monster Stompers and Nomad. You can find me at Jamie_Nash.
You didn't plug the Christmas movies?
We'll do it at the end.
Yeah, I figured I'd do it. It was a momentary thought. I was like, I'm going to mix it up this time. I'm going to say something weird.
All right, so today we're going to talk about the 1964 Christmas TV special classic, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Before we get into the discussion topics, we're going to go around and say something personal or with our experience with this one. Let's start with Jamie.
Yeah, so this movie, I'll take you back to the time when I was a child. And I was thinking about this the other day. Like, you guys probably don't even know this. You didn't live this life. But when I was born, when I was a kid, things would go away forever because VHS was not around, right? So you would watch something. You guys don't really know that, right? You guys had VHS when you were
My
a kid,
earliest
right?
memory, VHS existed. So
okay, how about you, Jimmy? Same.
Pretty. We had beta, but
yeah, same.
Yeah.
That really is a good example of all of our ages.
So for me, I would go see a movie in the theater and I would be like, this is the last time I will see this movie, or maybe it'll come back 20 years from now or something like that. It was kind of sad. I remember when the credits used to play, I was sad if I really loved the movie. You know, it was kind of sad. So there were, with the exception of the ubiquitous television, Brady Bunch, like these were the things that were on Gilligan's Island, Star Trek, all the things that were on Three's Company, for that matter, when I got a little older, whatever the thing was. Those things were ubiquitous. But then there were these recurring things, and they meant a lot to us as kids. Like, they were really important things. So when Rudolph came on every Christmas, it was appointment television. I did not miss it every single year. It was very important to watch this, like very important. Like, it almost wasn't Christmas if I didn't watch it. It was part of the whole celebration. So I watched Rudolph, the Charlie Brown Christmas special, Frosty. They were the three main ones. And then every now and then I'd catch another Rankin Bass, like the sequel to Rudolph eventually showed up, or the some of the weird ones, like what's the one that I can't think of what it's called. The Year Without Santa Claus, is that the one?
Yeah,
But anyway, there were some other ones that weren't as important, but Rudolph was really, really, really important for me to watch every single year, and I did. So I practically had the whole thing memorized because it was something I watched once a year, every year, and it's so. To wrap all that up, it's to me. I was thinking about this when I rewatched it for this. I think it's my favorite Christmas movie in some ways. Not that I think it's the best Christmas movie, not that I think I'd recommend it to people, but I think it's like the one that epitomizes Christmas personally to me is Rudolph. It's the top of my list is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
It's your anecdotal Christmas favorite. It's your personal.
It's the star on top of the tree.
Exactly.
Man.
It's from my personal list, not necessarily like Die Hard or whatever, whatever the thing would be. But my personal list, honestly, if I said what movie says Christmas to you more than any other, it would be this one.
Are we calling this a movie?
Yes.
Is it a movie?
It's a special, but
I think of TV special movie.
Yeah, okay, we'll call it a TV special.
It doesn't matter. I was just kind of asking.
Controversial question,
I know.
Bob.
You know why I think it's a movie? Because like Charlie Brown was a half an hour. How long is this thing? How long is it?
47 minutes.
Oh, I was going to say 50.
Because it breaks the half an hour barrier. I think it's a mini movie.
Ooh,
that's
okay.
what I see. That's my take.
The Star Wars holiday special is a Star Wars movie.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Oh,
Jimmy.
I forgot. That's my favorite Christmas.
I love that we worked that in. So.
Yeah, right.
I
We
knew
should have
one
done
of us
that.
would.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Oh boy. Yeah, Jimmy.
Okay, I'll go. So I grew up a little bit later than Jamie, in the 80s, and this definitely was one of the holiday traditions for sure, was watching this movie. By that time we had Alvin and the Chipmunks, and I remember that being an annual thing, and there were a few more, just like Jamie said, the Frosty the Snowman, and it definitely was an exciting thing every year. I remember it, and I feel like even The Simpsons were doing Christmas stuff just like they do Halloween stuff early on, and that was exciting in the early 90s. But we didn't talk about this on many of the other Christmas, because we did It's a Wonderful Life last year, and we've also done Home Alone, and we've
Gremlins.
done Gremlins, and we've done
Hard.
Die Hard. So we've done 4 Christmas movies. This
Batman
is number
Returns.
5. And Batman Returns, it counts too. None of those, I think, apologies if I repeat something I said in 2018. But I worked retail for 17 years, and it absolutely destroyed my holiday spirit, because if anyone has never worked a retail Christmas, it starts on August 31st, and I was literally in the back room putting together Christmas trees on August 31st, and my life was hell until basically like January 3rd. And so I lost all of any sort of sense of joy with the holiday because of that. And it was kind of surprising to me how much, to what Jamie said, watching this movie for the first time in maybe like 20 years, it actually it brought back, it rekindled a little bit of that, like it had that magic still. It rekindled it for me. All of a sudden felt a little young, and I was like, oh yeah, this is like, remember life before you worked 17 retail Christmases. There's still some magic left in you.
Life before the darkness in your soul started to grow.
God, yes, before I became the Grinch.
Right.
So I mean, I seem jolly, I probably on this podcast, but I absolutely was a Grinch for those 17 years. And yeah, so I love the movie, and I was really surprised to, I don't know why, but I was surprised by like the amount of craft. We have a huge list, and we kept a bunch of stuff off. Like, I put this in the chat earlier. Like, Hermie has a not so secret weapon that we're not going to talk about. Yukon has a not so secret weapon that we're not going to talk about. The entire story is like Rudolph's nightmare fuel. Like, so many of the things we talk about on this show are in action in this thing. That's why it like stands the test of time.
You actually held back on topics, whereas we do some full-length features that we actually like struggle to make topics.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, you had to hold back on this one.
Yeah, there was like 4 of them that I was like, maybe I'll do it. Nah, we're gonna be here forever. Yeah, right. But anyway, yeah, so that's my side of things.
To give you an idea of our age differences, the 2 Christmas specials that define Christmas for me, like I have to watch them every year. I do. On Christmas Eve, I watch every year. Mr. Bean, Merry Christmas, Mr. Bean, and It's a Bundleful Life.
Oh,
the Married with Children.
That's a great one.
Yeah, right. I probably mentioned that on the It's a Wonderful Life episode, but that's the age difference we're talking, because Mr. Bean was like early 90s, right? Or is it late early 90s? And then It's a Bundleful Life, it's like mid 90s or something like that. So yeah, there's our ages represented in Christmas. As far as Rudolph goes, I don't have the experience you had, Jamie, at all. Like, for me, this is something that I think my parents showed me on a taped off TV VHS tape when I was a kid. I haven't watched this, like Jimmy, I haven't watched this in like 20, 25 years.
Yeah.
It's more like I saw it so much as a kid, I just abandoned it for all the other Christmas media. And I watch a lot of Christmas media every year. But yeah, I haven't watched this, just like straight up sat down and watched this in so long. But it's, when you watch it, it's The Godfather. And I mean The Godfather, the movie The Godfather, of what that is to mob movies. This is to Christmas, right?
Yeah.
Like Elf, right? Like,
yeah,
everything in Elf, all the stylings, the opening, the bookends, everything is based on this.
Yeah.
How many people don't even know that?
Probably. Yeah.
How many kids that watch Elf every year have no clue what this is, but it's like literally directly from that,
Yeah.
you know? It's just this is like Americana, like a Christmas Americana. It's that defining. It created people like Jamie.
It did.
It really did in your DNA.
I mean, so, you know, I made this movie Two Front Teeth, which was my first directing kind of producing thing. And it's essentially a legacy sequel to this. If you watch it, it has Rudolph in it, and Rudolph's nose becomes the MacGuffin. And it's essentially like The Force Awakens to Rudolph, essentially, as a horror movie.
Whew, that's a pitch, man.
Man, the Silent Nights are so cool. Bob, you haven't seen it?
Two Front Teeth?
Yeah.
I did when I met Jamie, but it was on YouTube or something a long time
Probably
ago.
on YouTube. For a while, I just left it on YouTube for people to watch.
I remember the quality of the copy was not great.
Yeah, it's really the quality isn't great in the first place.
Oh.
But actually, that movie starts out with an animated snowman that's like
right.
exactly and telling the story. I mean, it's so that shows you. I mean, it was really just like that's how much it's kind of rooted. And I made like 5 Christmas movies since then, and they probably all have some reference to this movie in some ways. Yeah.
Also, just like in general, whenever a sketch show or a comedy show does a Christmas parody, what do? What's like the thing It's Always Sunny does, or Key and Peele or SNL? They always have the stop motion homage to this.
Yes.
Right? Like it's so ingrained in what Christmas is.
Yeah.
It's just so Christmas, right? All right. Jamie, who wrote this shit?
Who wrote Stephen King's first? No, wouldn't it be awesome? So for this one, I'm going to go back a little bit and talk about, because this is based on a song, based on a story, right?
Based on an ad campaign.
An ad campaign. Right? That's the story. That's the story part I wanted to talk about. So let's go back. Let's start with the story part. And so sit back, my children.
Your Burl Ives impression.
Yeah.
I used to have a book. I used to have a book that was the making of this movie. I couldn't find it for this, so I just kind of Googled. But that's how much I like this movie. Is I had a book. So the origin of this, it started back with this guy Robert L. May, and if I remember correctly, and this is the part I didn't Google. I remember his wife had died. I'm not sure how recent, but I think he was actually. Oh, my motion's detected. Santa's here. So I think at the time, his wife had just passed away, and he was kind of grieving. He was a department store copywriter or ad writer, and every year Montgomery Ward's published this book, they published a story that they'd hand out for free or something like that. I think they might send it out to their customers, and he pitched them actually on the story of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer when he was struggling to care for his daughter, who was also grieving the mom as well. And he kind of wrote a story kind of that would inspire her and things like that. And he wanted to do something really positive. And it went out and it became this big hit. It was a pamphlet they sent out. But the coolest thing about this story, I'm not going to give you the whole Rudolph story here. The coolest thing to me about the story, at some point Montgomery Ward's decided to let him have the copyright. And it was after it was successful. Like it was becoming so successful. Montgomery Ward's was like, look, we're not in the movie producing business or whatever. You know, you can have the copyright. It's yours.
Wow.
Yeah. And they gave it to him. They transferred it to him for like nothing. And
how mad were they? Like a decade.
No, but I think they already knew it was happening. But they were like, I guess they were just like, we're a billionaire company.
That would never happen now, but it's amazing.
Never. So he then orchestrated getting the song written, which was his brother, I believe. I think his brother wrote the song. Brother-in-law, Johnny Marks, wrote the song. And they got Gene Autry to sing it. I can't remember. There's somebody else that they asked before that was interesting. Like, I'm going to say like Frank Sinatra or somebody like that. And they said, no, I'm not doing that. But Gene Autry eventually sang the song. And then the song became even a bigger hit than the
That's
the
what made
booklet.
it a household name.
It made it a
right?
household name. Yeah, exactly. So so fast forward years later, Rankin Bass, they were also like advertisers and things like that came together to form this company to make unique animation. It was called, I think they called it Animagic, is what their process was, is stop motion. And stop motion had been around, like you think of Ray Harryhausen,
King Kong.
but King Kong, things like that. But the particular brand of animation they wanted to do was something that they saw the Japanese were doing. And they basically wanted to kind of steal that technique, but put, their stories into that, as opposed to like these Japanese stories that were being made. So Rudolph was actually made in Japan. Like all the animated parts were made through a Japanese company in Japan back in the day. So who wrote?
Did you know
this
that
shit?
until now?
I did,
found that out for
I
this
read
episode.
the book. It was because I read.
I didn't know it was in Japan.
I had this hardback book, like The Making of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, that I read. It was funny when I did Two Front Teeth, I went on a deep dive down Rankin Bass. I studied everything I could about it and learned a lot about it. So I'm kind of remembering this. That was 20 years ago. So
yeah, that book, there's a book that Jon Favreau references that he brought to his pitch meeting for Elf, that I want to find that tome. It's like a gigantic tome of Rankin Bass making of
cool.
memorabilia, all the costumes on the different figures and things like that. And he says he brought it to the pitch meeting for Elf, and he's like, this is going to be the aesthetic.
I mean, they straight up
must be the aesthetic. Yes.
I mean, Buddy's costume is just the costume of the head elf.
Yeah.
It's like straight up.
Yeah.
And by the way, just as important to me, like the Easter Bunny special they did with Iron Tail. I don't know if you ever saw that.
Oh definitely.
It was almost, I don't even know, that one might be even bigger for me because it was so weird. And
weird.
I think what I liked about these were they were weird. I mean,
so weird.
They would never make these for kids today. And even some of the things, they have death in them. Like Yukon dies essentially. I mean, he comes back, but I don't know. They're just scary and weird.
Yeah.
And when it would cut back to like the snowman, like, ooh, that was scary. It really was kind of scary when I was a kid, So anyway,
that pickaxe.
Yeah, there's some weird stuff
there.
And the one thing we didn't do for this that I was tempted to do, but I didn't think I had the ability to really speak to it or the knowledge, was to talk about musicals and how
I know it's our first musical.
It really is. Yep.
I'm not sure that I'm the best person to talk. I haven't ever researched that. I watched Wicked last night. And I was thinking there's probably something, but how many spec writers out there writing musicals anyway? So who cares? I guess
I've only been sent 2 as script butcher in 8 years. So.
Somebody tried to hire me to write one, not the musical parts, but they wanted me to do all the rest of it one time, but that's it. But anyway, so
it's when the emotion gets too big, they sing.
Yeah.
That's what Edgar Wright defined musicals as, right?
Yep.
That's helpful. Yeah.
So the writer of this is Romeo Mueller, I guess, and he was a screenwriter who mostly seemed to work in animated holiday specials or animation or specials, a lot of TV specials in his world, and some of the ones he did.
Name some?
Yeah, I know he did like Frosty the Snowman.
He did Frosty the Snowman, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, Little Drummer Boy, Jack Frost, Rudolph Shiny New Year, Frosty's Winter Wonderland. I mean, the list goes on. He also did the animated Rankin Bass Hobbit, which is and Return of the King. He also did Return to Oz, Wind in the Willows, The Easter Bunny is Coming to Town.
These are all the Rankin Bass ones. Yeah,
Rankin Bass ones. I mean, I'm not going to read this entire list, but it's pretty awesome.
Prolific.
I saw in my research Rankin Bass actually did Thundercats as well, which kind of, I didn't realize
I didn't know that
the reach extended that far into things like Thundercats, so But that's it. That's all I got for you. And just to say it. So the things we usually say, like how much money does it make? So I did find the budget. The budget was $500,000, which they said in today's dollars would be 4.5 million, which still to me is cheap. But they said for that time that was a ton of money to invest in a kids special.
For a kids TV special too.
For a kids TV special. And I saw that it said when it premiered, 55% of US households watched it. And keep in mind, there were only 3 channels and or whatever. So you had a pretty good chance of getting 55%.
There was TV was like a lone thing too. Like,
yeah,
they didn't have TikTok.
even in the days when I was a kid, before cable really hit big, there were really only 4 options. You know, it was like the 3 channels and UHF. Anyway, 55% of the TV households would be approximately 33,000 people, million people.
33 million people.
33 million people during the premiere. But I don't even know how big of a deal that was, because that just is what happened every other night. You know what I mean? Like that's how many people watch TV.
If you could factor in the last 70 years or whatever.
Oh yeah.
People rewatching it.
Yeah, 70 years.
Or however long it's been.
I think guarantee 70 is about right.
I guarantee you, when I was a kid, it won the night it was on. You know what I mean? Like even though it came on every year, if you went back to 1977, it probably won the 8 to 9 time slot. Between every year.
Yeah.
Just goes to show, Robert May probably didn't know when he came up with this ad campaign that he was going to make something that's basically immortal.
Yeah.
Seen by millions of people for a century at least.
It's kind of outside the scope of this, but it's interesting, the development of all the Santa Claus mythology, because you think of how there's all these like building blocks, like Coca-Cola really hit, certain things.
Norman
Rockwell. To it.
Yeah.
Norman Rockwell, the songs, all this different stuff. What I didn't realize when I read, I don't know why, but I didn't realize like some of the songs, were actually like Holly Jolly Christmas. That came from this. I didn't realize. I don't know why. I thought
because it's been used in so many other places.
Yeah, your brain tells you it already.
I feel like it came from a recording artist album or something, but no, it came from this. Yeah,
it's one of the few songs in this that seems more calculated to be generically Christmas. Unlike, you don't sing silver and gold when you go Christmas caroling or anything. We're a couple of misfits.
It's the pure imagination of this movie. You know how pure imagination has lived outside Willy Wonka for so many things.
But even things like Dasher and Dancer and Prancer, that was all invented. Like it's just add-on. It's like ending this myth. Like I don't think we did know Dasher and Dancer and Prancer. I think they just invented that. Yeah. But Christmas is like that in general. I mean, you can trace the elves and Santa's village, and it just keeps adding on and on and on.
So at watching this for the first time in 20 some years, I actually looked up on my phone. I was like, wait, are they saying Donner? And I was like, I thought it was Donder. And in this movie, they're saying Donner. But it's also both are
Richard Donner. Well, this is Richard Donner, this character. Yeah.
Right.
He's the reindeer that went on to direct Superman.
Right.
Yeah.
But I had to look it up because I was like, wait, I always thought it was Donder. No, but it's just in this one, it's Donner.
That's one of those like Trivial Pursuit questions where people say Donner and you're like, no, it's Donder.
Donder. Right. Okay. Pillar Beats. Whose is this?
Oh, this is mine too. I already talked enough. No, hold on one second.
Never enough.
I'm saving my blabbing. I got book reports.
You do. Okay. So Pillar Beats. So in Save the Cat, we talk about the 15 beats, the beat structure. It's kind of the most important thing in Save the Cat, or the most influential thing, I'd say, in Save the Cat, is the 15 beats. We talk about it on many podcasts. You start with an opening image. You have a setup of the characters where you explain the things that need fixing and kind of their ordinary world. Then a catalyst comes. The story kicks off. That Nakatomi Plaza is attacked or whatever. There's a debate, blah, blah, blah. It goes on and on like that. It's like a list of 15 kind of prompts to get you through any story. And that's the hardest Save the Cat. So the pillar beats are a subset of those that I'd like to go through today that are sometimes useful to start with. Like sometimes I say, just start with the pillar beats. Don't worry about figuring out your fun and games and your debate and all this other stuff. And the pillar beats tend to be single scene beats that happen to the hero. That's the tendency in general of what they are. And the bigger reason we decided to start with the pillar beats today is because Save the Cat, the website, it's like Superman the motion picture. Save the Cat, the website.
Baseballs, the videotape.
By the way, with all this Superman discourse, I really want to make a movie and call it the motion picture.
Right. Well, Star Trek, the motion picture.
Star Trek, the motion picture. I want to go back to the motion picture.
Just add it to everything now.
I'm going to add it to everything. Yeah. Two front teeth, the motion picture from now on. So
that's the director's cut. You just add the motion picture.
That's my new goal in life. I'm going to create something and call it the motion picture. So anyway, Save the Cat, the motion picture, the Save the Cat website. It did a beat sheet of this Christmas special just like last week. So you can go and Save the Cat. You can look at this, but we figured let's talk through this and see what they view as the Save the Cat structure. But let's do it in a quick way so we don't spend all day on it and just look at the pillar beats. Okay, so I'll call out the pillar beat and then I'll read it and we can discuss whether we think it's accurate. Yeah. I generally agree with this beat sheet. This beat sheet's done by Don Roth, who does a lot of their beat sheets. He does a lot of the horror movies. He does a really good job. So check his stuff out there as well. So here we go. Now, first of all, interesting, he set the genre, and I don't want to go into the genre definition, but he said superhero genre, which I didn't, at first I reacted, ooh, I'm not sure. And then I was like,
that makes sense.
Maybe. Yeah, I was like, maybe. So, okay, the pillar beats. The first pillar beat is the opening image. And the opening image is literally what you open with. It usually shows the world before the story changes everything. You know, it's usually sometimes it starts with a very visual or thematic thing. Sometimes it's a scene, like a teaser scene or something like that. But it usually foreshadows things or kind of sets the stage. In this case, there's newsreel footage, and this is what Don wrote. Newsreel footage and shocking headlines reveal that a big December blizzard may cancel Christmas. And it's basically saying it foreshadows the storm to come. And this is kind of a storyteller opening image. And honestly, when I tell people to write pillar beats, I tell them that part is good, but you should almost write like the next scene, like the first scene with the main character. Like if you have a storyteller beat, you might want to write like, what's the first scene Rudolph's in? And just to have it.
Yeah, you've said on the show before, which I really like, that you that it's kind of like a misnomer. Opening image is more like opening scene of the character's life. It's like opening snapshot of who they are.
Yeah, and it's really just, that's my strategy. Like whatever way you do it is fine. Like opening image makes sense. Like I think he got it right in retrospect. But I think if you're outlining and you're trying to pull a story out, try to think of that first scene that your main character is in and use that as the opening image, or sometimes use the teaser, like if Jaws attacks, the girl or something, and the opening image is a dangerous ocean or something like that. That's at least, but I think it can help you if you figure out the first scene of the character, because then you can figure out the arc using the pillar beats. Anyway, so that's my suggestion for that. But anyway, skipping over that, because it's fine the way they did it. So the catalyst is the next one. So between that, there's a setup and theme stated. The catalyst here is Santa Claus visits and acknowledges Rudolph's intelligence, but is unsettled by his glowing nose. And Santa Claus is
such an asshole.
He's such an asshole in the movie. That's why I was laughing when he came out.
Until he eats.
Like, fuck you, Santa.
Until he gets some food in him.
He's really a horrible Santa in some ways.
Yeah.
He subtly hints that Rudolph will need to prove himself to be worthy of the sleigh team. I guess. I guess. I don't know. What do you think of
What
that?
would be the catalyst if it's not that, Jamie? Would it be
might be
Being made
yeah.
fun of?
My thing is getting made fun of, because that's what
think that'd be
kicks us
fun.
from the normal
That's
world
what,
and
yes.
puts the story in motion.
That puts the quest. That puts literally the quest in motion.
It puts the quest in motion. And
But I mean, basically, Santa is doing that.
He is. It's similar in that it's one of the first slights we see of the outside world kind of hurting Rudolph's self-esteem, and that's
it's the first in a series of insults.
In a series, yeah. But you're right. The big one,
the one that feels like the catalyst is the No More Reindeer Games laughing at him.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so the next pillar beat is the break into two. So after the catalyst, you normally have the debate. We're skipping over that. It's not a pillar, but the break into two is the next pillar beat. And the break into two is Rudolph meets Hermie and realizes they are both misfits. Bonded by their shared sense of not belonging, they decide to join forces and be independent together. Venturing into the vast snowy wilderness, they face the looming danger of the abominable monster lurking behind every snowy hill and valley.
This reminds me of Lion King a little bit. Doesn't it? Timon and Pumbaa?
What's interesting about it is, like, if I wrote the log line, hero, goal, obstacle, stakes, like, they definitely make a decision, and it's really running away from home. Isn't that really what this is?
Yeah.
It's like, we're going to go out in the world. We're going to leave this thing behind. And that's one of those weird fears. Like, as a kid watching this, it resonated. I like dark stuff as a kid. I like the scary stuff, but they probably wouldn't do this now. Like, let's have the two happy-go-lucky characters decide to just run away from home and leave their parents behind and stuff like that.
The upside down world of being independent, and, as they call it, and being in the wilderness, the dangerous wilderness. Yeah.
Oddly enough, Star Wars is kind of doing that right now, right? With Skeleton Crew, isn't that?
Yeah.
I don't know how old Rudolph is in human years. Like, maybe he's 25, and I don't know. Maybe he's stunted adolescence.
The aging is very muddy.
He's got 25.
I'm just kidding. In human years, it's like a dog. Maybe he's 8 years old. And that's I don't know. Maybe running away for a reindeer isn't a big deal. Like, going out in the zone.
I guess Hermes is an elf. He could be like hundreds of years old.
Hermie definitely comes off as an older soul. So I don't know. It could be. So anyway, that is the next one. It skips all the way to the midpoint. So we're already at the middle of the movie, and it skips over the fun and games section. In the midpoint, he has the trio faces their shared nemesis, the abominable snowman. With Yukon's help, Hermie and Rudolph narrowly escape on a floating chunk of ice, drifting deeper into the Arctic mists. This moment is a false victory, as their immediate survival masks the larger threat of the snow monster still looming. I might take issue with that part of it. I actually think it might be a false defeat in that they kind of land with the misfit toys. You know what I mean? So I kind of 1-2 punch it. Like, it seems like things are horrible, but then they end up with the misfit toys and kind of are back in their path or something like that. They learn a lesson, or I don't know.
But do you think it's a good? Are you happy with that midpoint? With that being the midpoint? From a teaching standpoint,
I think so. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's a good one. I think he nailed the midpoint there, and he nailed the break into two. Now, here's where it gets a little controversial, and honestly, it's not his fault, because I'm not sure that the movie nails this. And I'll say why this is instructive, that it doesn't nail it. So he has All Is Lost. So All Is Lost is this moment where the worst possible thing happens to the hero. Okay. And it usually kicks off this dark night of the soul beat, where they wallow and they feel like they should have never went on the journey and all this other stuff. And then the break into three comes, which gets them out of their funk and takes them into the finale. So he has, as the All Is Lost moment, the worst thing that could happen is Rudolph convinces himself that his glowing nose is a curse, not a gift, and that his presence puts his friends in danger. Believing they are better off without him, he quietly leaves them during the night and ventures off alone into the icy wilderness. With constant threat of the abominable snowman lurking at every turn, Rudolph faces a whiff of death, his isolation, leaving him vulnerable and surrounded by peril at every corner. So a couple reasons I don't think this is the All Is Lost. I kind of see one reason why he might have chose this as the All Is Lost. But one, I think Rudolph doesn't feel like this is an All Is Lost. Like, he's kind of happy when he leaves. I don't know what to say. He's kind of like, I'm going to go, because he's going back to tell the people about the misfit toys. Isn't that kind of what's implied? Like, he's off.
There is some implied mission. Yes.
Yeah. There's a few things in this that are implied. Like when they run away from home, it's kind of more implied than it actually is said. They're just like, let's be independent together. And they walk into the snow.
Meaning we're running away. Yes.
Right. Yeah. They're just running away. Right?
Yeah.
Typically, the All Is Lost is not a moment where they realize something. And this is really the instructive part. It's something that happens to the hero. So something bad happens to the hero. Or some circumstance happens. And
are you saying this part is him realizing he's putting his friends in danger?
Yeah.
He has to leave to go on a mission, basically.
Yeah, he leaves to go on a mission.
So it's not happening to him.
It's not happening to him.
Yeah. So a lot of times when I work with writers on a consulting basis, they have All Is Lost like this. And I say, well, what's the one moment that happened before this? Now, in this case, it doesn't work. But sometimes it's like something really bad happens because of their nose. And I'm like, that's the All Is Lost. This is Dark Night of the Soul. This is when they're sad and they have to leave their friends because their nose is a curse and it'll never go away. And that's the Dark Night of the Soul. And then the other thing about this, so then the question is, what is the All Is Lost in this? And I think there's a few candidates. And the reason it's tricky is because it's harder to detect a Dark Night of the Soul. And when you use Save the Cat retroactively, which if you know me, I'm somebody that believes Save the Cat is much better to use to pull a story out of you.
It's an idea generation tool,
than to try to conform some old 60-year-old story into the form and say, this is the only way you can do it and everything must conform. I'm much more a person that, I think
that's
most
relevant,
stories,
Jamie. That's coming.
Yeah. and I think most stories conform mostly to Save the Cat beats, but sometimes they don't, either from editing, from the fact that these people didn't use Save the Cat, to the fact that there's other strategies, all this stuff. But anyway, my thing with retroactively, when I try to find the Save the Cat beats, when I usually find All Is Lost, one, I look for the worst thing that could possibly happen. And then I look for a Dark Night of the Soul, something that's so horrible that it causes them to kind of wallow in grief for at least a minute or two. So I think this is just my personal, and nobody's right or wrong with this stuff. This is all just strategy and theory. But I think from an instructive point of view, when he goes back to the cave, or when he goes back home and his parents and Clarice are gone, and it's like, they've been gone for months looking for you. To me, that feels more like an All Is Lost moment.
Yeah.
Like that's a death.
Yeah.
How about this to kind of like smooth it out? On paper, that is the All Is Lost moment that I would agree with for you.
Yeah.
In execution, on screen, it doesn't feel like that.
I gotcha. Yeah. You're saying the drama that is like
so I understand why he would go with the one he went here with because of the on-screen execution.
Well, it's because
but I understand why you're saying what you're saying too.
I think it's because of the Dark Night of the Soul. And when he finds it out in the cave, he just goes, I'll go look for him. And he just leaves. So there's no Dark Night of the Soul. So that's why it doesn't feel like feel like an All Is Lost. Because if it was All Is Lost, he'd cry or something. He'd be like, I can't believe I did that. Whereas that other moment, which to me, his action doesn't seem like a big deal, or it doesn't it doesn't seem like a big change. It's just the same old stuff. He kind of walks away in the snow and it's cold and he's alone, and it feels more like a Dark Night of the Soul. So that's what I mean. In this movie, there's a lack of a All Is Lost Dark Night of the Soul 1-2 punch. But I think the things that happen to him later in the story, including, I'm going to go with another one that I also thought could have been the All Is Lost, when he goes to save them in the cave and gets knocked out. That could be an All Is Lost too. That's totally All Is Lost material. But honestly, in like if I was brainstorming this movie, I probably would add a scene where then he's reunited with his family and he's like sad or something. You know, he's like, I got us into this. If I never ran away, I would have. You know,
he has this confessional moment. This is all my fault.
But that doesn't happen at all. Instead, it's just like we move on to Yukon Cornelius and things like that. So that's what I'm saying. Like this one's really hard to peg the all is lost because there's not the 1-2 punch. And the one advantage, the one good thing I'll say about this, and the one reason this works, probably the arc just kind of works. I almost feel like he arcs early on in the story. Like he kind of starts gaining his confidence much earlier in the story,
which I think kind of feels like this. It fits what Don was saying about it being a superhero movie.
You know? Exactly. When I saw him say that and I thought about it, I was like, it's almost like that flat arc, you know, where it's like the world is trying to tell him
change Rudolph.
And he didn't need to change.
Yeah. But on the flip side, and that is partially true, but on the flip side, it would almost be like if Superman thought he was a freak and he was worthless in the first half of the movie, but then started to say, I'm pretty cool and I'm going to help people. You know, I'm going to go on a quest by myself. It's a little different than that, but it has shades of it. So anyway, that's where but what I was going to say was, if you're going to mess up, like, if you're going to screw up a structure thing, my opinion is it's better to have too many pillar beats, like, so we can't figure out which is which, than too little, right? So if you have 3 things that could be the all is lost and we're debating which one, that means things are happening and there are plot twists and turns and things like that. And that's all good. So I think that's how you get away with I think it's better to have too many big moments than too few, than having none, is what I'm saying.
If you're like, none of them fit.
If none of them fit. I feel especially that's true of the catalyst and the all is lost. Like if you don't have a catalyst, the story ends up being kind of weird because it's like it's already in motion before you start. But if you have 3 catalysts that kind of domino, it's kind of the double bump catalyst phenomenon. That's fine. That works great. Same is true of all is lost, because the one thing, you know, I talk about the horror book that will one day come out. The one thing I realized in that, there's a lot of horror movies have multiple all is lost because they keep topping each other and they keep giving you a new twist. We talked about that when we did Longlegs. And so it works. Having multiple works. Okay, so last but not least, break into 3. Rudolph finds his entire family and they're trapped in the cave of the abominable snowman, or abominable monster, I guess he has written here. And tying the A and B stories together, this moment unites his journey of self-acceptance with the emotional stakes of his bond with Clarice and setting the stage for the showdown. And I even debated that when I was like, is that the one? Or is it when Cornelius comes? Like, are they getting Act 3 somehow? And then there's the whole thing with
the snowstorm.
The snowstorm, which
like
could
Christmas is canceled.
You know, is that the all is lost? You know what I mean? Like, is that? But he doesn't wallow there, and it's
that's Santa's all is lost.
Yeah. So he and again, I think because there's too many of these is fine. Like that's why it works. That's why we don't like be like, which one's, you know, when you're watching it, you're not like, which one's the all is lost? You're like, man, another, you know, thing.
Another bad thing's happening. They're making them suffer.
And that's okay. I mean, that's what I mean. Like it works. That works fine. Yeah. Like I'm fine if you do too many. But if you had none, I'd be and he actually pegs like the Hightower surprise, as Yukon going after the cliff and the dig down deep, them working together. I know this isn't a pillar beat. I'm just kind of mentioning this. Yeah. And then the execution of the new plan is returning to Christmastown. So he has the whole thing about saving Christmas almost outside of the structure, almost like an epilogue.
An extra,
yeah, it's like an epilogue to the whole thing. So,
it's Santa.
Yeah. So there you go. So, and then last but not least, the final image, Rudolph fulfills his promise to the island of misfit toys, delivering them to children who will love and cherish them. And once rejected for their differences, the misfits find their rightful place in the world. The story concludes with Rudolph going down in history as the reindeer who saved Christmas, his glowing nose forever celebrated as a symbol of individuality and strength.
And Jamie, speaking to your strategy for opening image being focused on your character, that final image is really an after before and after snapshot of Rudolph more than anything else.
That's right.
To your point, like that's the power and value of kind of focusing that opening image beat on your character.
Not only is he going to go down in history instead of being this freak or whatever, but he's also doing the same thing for these other misfit toys. So, it's full circle.
Yeah. That was good. I love when we have an episode where we can do these, because I like pointing out that you don't have to conform, chosen word on purpose. It doesn't have to fit it perfectly, and it can still be great.
Your script can have a glowing nose.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, character construction tools. You want to talk about intensity again, right?
This is my
it's our new favorite thing
of the year. This is my favorite new technique of the show. We've done it a whole bunch recently. I'm sorry. I just think I see it in everything I watch now and everything I'm reading. I'm looking for it and looking for where it could be more tense. So I wanted to go through Rudolph and see if it was there, because I think it is. And it was fun to watch this 60-something-year-old classic and see, oh shit, like that's one of the many reasons this has stood the test of time. So Jamie, do you want to I'll set up most of it, but where was this originally from? It was theoretical?
Yes, it's a website called theoretical.com, I think.
Yeah, it's spelled TH for anyone who wants
theoretical,
to look it up.
the website.
Theoretical, the website.
The motion picture.
Yes. Theoretical.com. They're a marketing strategy website, right, Jamie? Is that right?
That's right. That's right. And that's the article's focused on that, but it's still a great article for screenwriters or writers.
The examples they use. So what is tensity? So their definition they give is, and sorry, I don't have the name of the author. Sorry about that. Shame on me. The definition this article gives is crafting a character with two opposing traits. The tension between those traits is what makes them fresh and interesting. So some of the examples on the website that we've talked about in the episodes where we've covered this, Elle Woods, they define in Legally Blonde as a clever ditz. Han Solo in Star Wars, they define as a reliable rogue. Superman, that's one of our favorite ones, is an epic everyman. He's an alien with epic powers, but he was raised on a farm in small town Kansas. And recently on Beetlejuice, we broke down the characters in Beetlejuice, and we thought, Beetlejuice, charismatic creep. Adam and Barbara are friendly ghosts. They're Caspers. Lydia is a sentimental cynic. Delia is a tacky sophisticate. So there it was, right? All those characters pop because at the core of their construction, they have this tensity. So I wanted to go through the Rudolph characters and just riff and see if you guys... Go ahead.
Yeah, Jimmy, one thing, I think I do this in my workbook, but it's something I did just a almost alternative to this approach. Before we go into the approach, is this meets this. So
okay.
Yeah, I suggest people, like, sometimes I say one fun way to do it, like when I'm brainstorming with a co-writer, it's Darth Vader meets Napoleon Dynamite or something, to me, that's a fun way to kind of do this.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But anyway,
I want to see that movie.
Right.
It's a liger.
It's Voldemort meets Elle Woods. I don't know. You got to pick up these.
Yeah, no. So you guys want to go through
Teen Wolf meets Luke Skywalker.
Exactly.
That's awesome too. I would love to see that. So what do you think about Rudolph? Does Rudolph have tensity?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hold on. Let me open up. I did a brainstorm of these last night.
Nice.
Hold on. Let's see.
Yeah, because off the top of my head, I'm always bad at these. I always say innocent outcast, but that doesn't work.
You're close though.
It's close.
Yeah. Mine weren't too good for this one. Like I was getting stumped with these a little bit because I think some of the characters don't have as much tensity as maybe they should. Like when we get outside of Rudolph and stuff like that. You go ahead, Jimmy. Why don't you?
I thought like what made me think about this was with Rudolph is Don's breakdown, calling it a superhero story. It really was like eye-opening because I didn't ever think of it like that, and it definitely shares those things. Like I actually think Rudolph reminds me a lot of Harry Potter because he's this like scarred magical individual who, when we meet him, he's an outcast in a very ordinary family, so, and he has these things, but the tension comes from not the tensity, is tension, but we as an audience, when we go into Harry Potter, we know he's the magical one, when we're watching it and we're just meeting him, we already know he's like the magical one, right? So we have this tension and superior position over everyone in the story, and every time he's interacting with anybody, we're kind of waiting for him to like self-actualize, you know what I mean? And
I would argue it's almost the same here.
That's what I'm saying. Like it made me go, oh shit, like Rudolph is that, his story is very much like that Harry Potter thing. Like every
it's
scene
named after him too.
Yeah, the song, if you think about it, right? Like, so the song was from the 40s, so it was a very famous song for like decades before this show came out. So everyone watching this show for the first time in 1964, they knew the song, so they knew the story already, so they knew that Rudolph was special and the magic, they knew he was the superhero. So they're watching this and they're knowing that like all that mistreatment and everything we're seeing is going to come to fruition in a really exciting way, and you're kind of just waiting for it, right? So there's that tension there, and so that made me go magical misfit, right? Everybody there is magical, but he's particularly magical, right? He's got some special power, but that special power is making him an outcast, and that's like the tensity, you know what I mean? I mean, that's the tensity that I feel. So that was where I went with that one.
Yeah, mine was similar. I can't find mine that I wrote down, but it was something like, I mean, it was. I'm trying to think about what I had. It was something like underappreciated savior or something like that.
I mean, you're saying the same thing, but different. Yeah, totally. Yeah, ostracized
savior. It was something like that.
Yeah. So and you feel that in every scene.
How about needed outcast?
That's perfect, Bob. Yes.
Took me a minute. I was
like, he's got the cure, right?
Yeah, but he's also an outcast, right?
Yeah, he's got the cure to conformity. Even though they exploit him. And the next one, Hermie. Did you guys have anything for Hermie?
It was another one I was struggling to put words around. Like I wasn't sure to go dreamer, I'm not sure what, but it's almost, here's the weird thing about him too. He's a fantastic character. Like he lives in a dream world, but his dream is mundane. And I was trying to, it's ordinary. It does. I was trying to combine like, those two words.
Dreamer.
Yeah, I mean, I was going pretty literal, which is toy maker dentist. I mean, it's just that is the tensity. Like he's a guy who makes toys, and like that's what kids like get excited about toys, and he wants to be a dentist, and kids like are terrified of the dentist.
That's kind of what I was chasing when I was trying to
like
say
he wants to be Dr. Giggles.
I do like Dreamer though. I do like Dreamer. I do like that.
He is a dreamer in an ordinary life. That's, I mean, in an extraordinary life. Like, I mean, he dreams to be ordinary. That's very weird and true. You feel that. That's true.
Yeah,
well, for him, ordinary life is being an elf that's making toys.
Yeah. Yeah, he's an assembly line worker at Amazon.
Yeah, pretty much.
There's another part of me that feels, and this is totally me watching, like he's an incompetent dreamer. Like I never felt like he'd be a good dentist.
That's funny.
It feels like somebody that, like like wants to be a filmmaker, but has no interest really in learning.
Jamie, when you
craft.
watch it and he tries to give the head elf an appointment, are you like, oh shit, he's gonna?
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah,
Doesn't even
don't
have
go to
any
him.
tools.
Right. Yeah, I mean, he has no training or anything, and he opens a dental practice in the North Pole.
That changes him for me. That's a really funny.
Like that's the sequel I want to see.
Do elves need dentists?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's the other question. Right?
Anyway, he is a fantastic character. So the third one, what do you got for Yukon Cornelius?
I feel like
He's
useful chaos or something like that. Useful lunatic. I don't know.
I had whimsical daredevil. I don't know what.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Daredevil wasn't quite the right word, but
he's also like really helpful. I feel like
So what I had was originally I was looking at his resourcefulness in contrast with him being goofy as shit. He's super goofy. He's the goofiest character.
Resourceful mess.
I had goofy protector.
That's good.
Like he's not the guy when he opens his mouth that you think is gonna be the most resourceful, protective character in the story, but time and time again he's like getting them out of situations with his resourcefulness. So he is I said goofy protector, and I think
they would be dead.
Yeah,
Yukon,
absolutely.
So. Yeah.
So goofy protector is what I had.
I think his character especially highlights the value of this. Like a lesser script, he just would have been the protector.
The protector. Yeah.
You know, he just would have been fully competent. He would have had no sense of humor. He just would have, there's a lesser version of him that he's just like kind of boring.
Is this what you wish Aragorn was like in Lord of the Rings?
I do.
Dude, Viggo Mortensen being like this would be hilarious.
They do it. Peter Jackson does a live action Rudolph.
Well,
Aragorn's licking his sword. And Peppermint.
Yeah.
So, and then I thought that the Misfit toys were a great, just like very simple on the nose version of this, right? Like the square wheeled train, the swimming bird, Charlie in the box, the cowboy riding an ostrich. That itself is like paradoxical.
Right.
Each one of those, like it explains tensity.
They are tensity.
They are tensity. Yeah. So anyway, I do. And the last one, this is the big one I want to talk about with you. I think Bumble becomes tense, a character with tensity in his redemptive arc. Like when he starts, he's just a fierce monster.
Right. That's true.
And then he becomes a gentle giant. He becomes a tame terror.
Right.
And I think that's very instructive. It made me go like, oh, is this the key? Is this kind of like an instructive way to approach a redemption? Right? It's a character who's like very one note.
We
like
learn their tensity.
Yeah. How do you how do you make them?
It's this is Biff washing the car at the end of Back to the
Future. He becomes interesting. Yes. Like way more that's So anyway, it reminded me of there was something that's never come up and never come up in this never come up in 127 episodes, and also never come up in this tool, which is when I was going all those seminars in the late 90s and early 2000s that I reference. One of them was the David S. Freeman's Beyond Structure, which I think is the best seminar I ever went to, and he's not doing it anymore. It's not, the material's not out there. Like I wish other people did it. He has an out of print book called Creating Emotion in Games, which goes through a lot of what he taught in the screenwriting seminar. But what he said, his theory, I want to hear you guys' take on this, building off of what we just said. David S. Freeman said that when characters arc, they usually shed their dynamic qualities. They actually become boring through the process of the arc. So when the movie ends, if their story continues, they're just basic as fuck.
Well, you're removing the conflict.
Yes, the tensity with them. So like the example I remember is him saying, "Well, Good Will Hunting." Like when that movie ends, he's just boring. He's just Goodwill, and nobody would want to watch
Good Will Hunting 2,
right? What do you guys think?
I think that's a
No,
great
sorry.
point. Yeah,
Is
it makes
and
sense.
there
I've never
might
heard
be,
it before, but I love it. I think it's great.
and I was saying this to someone yesterday when I was thinking about doing this on as a talking point, and they were like, that explains why sequels are so difficult, because
Yeah, 'cause they arced already.
because a really good first movie with a character who arcs, when the movie's over, there's nothing for them to change beyond that. Like, there's nothing for them to work on as a character. So then you pick up the movie, and like they're this boring character because everything that they needed to grow and change from already happened. So it's very interesting, and I
then
wonder
it's just plot that's driving the sequel instead of
yes. And then if you like get them back into that tensity, it kind of almost feels
But you could
inauthentic.
counterpoint by saying in the sequel you have to approach it like a Superman.
Yes,
They're now at
they're
a flat arc.
superhero.
Now you need the world to challenge what they've grown
They're
into.
an arc of awesome. They're changing everyone around them.
I think there's a few ways to look at it. Like if you look at Han Solo from Star Wars, like it's like he's starting to open up toward a different way at the end of that movie, but he's not completely changed. So it's almost like a midpoint, or something.
Yeah.
On the other hand, there's a character like Rocky, and in Rocky, what they do in Rocky 2 is you almost, or maybe even 3 as a better example, you almost have to look at how getting to this new ordinary world creates new problems,
new tensity.
New tensity
based on their character. That's good. That's good.
Rocky 2 is basically what about him trying to find a job?
Right.
I mean, that's an interesting problem.
Winning that, that's a good call
because that character can't do it.
So you're saying like when the sequel is done right, there is a way to approach it where if you put them in this new ordinary world, find what's the tensity with them.
I think you have to find like, okay, they're in a new ordinary world now. What's their flaw in that world? Like that's a good way to ask.
That's good. That's
good.
But
Rocky franchise, you kind of do it each movie.
Dude, I mean, we should do a sequel someday. Maybe we will. But anyway, I just thought it was illuminating that Bumble. It's the first time since we've been tracking this that we see a character who starts with no tensity, end with tensity, and that be a positive thing. And I wonder if figuring out what you can write that's basically going to take away your character's tensity is the way to help make their arc work. I don't know. It's something I think I'm going to track going forward and bring up again.
The character's a helpful hero. Make your character a helpful villain, and then turn him into the hero.
There you go.
That's it. There you go. It's called writing.
Done.
John Lovitz. Writing.
All right.
The ensemble and theme.
The ensemble and theme.
I asked Jamie to do this one for us. This is
the ensemble and theme. So there's something in my Save the Cat beat sheet workbook that I have a cheat sheet for creating your ensemble characters and how to do it, how to brainstorm them. And essentially what it is first you come up with a theme, a flaw, even of your hero. Like what do they need to learn? That's really what I'm chasing when I say theme, is what does your hero need to learn? What's the lesson? And then each of your other side characters are somehow related to that theme. They have either opinions or they embody the theme or something like that, which I will talk about in 1 second. So for example, this is from the book. I have a little cheat sheet that says, does this character reject the need, take the need too far, teach the need, embody the need, needs to learn the need, or supports the need? And in my opinion, each of your characters needs to check one of those boxes in some ways. Like that's a strategy that I use to approach things. So let me see if I can find out. Sorry, I have a big document this time, so I'm doing a lot of scrolling. So here we go. So Rudolph's father, I think he rejects the need, right? He kind of starts out and he's like, you got to conform to society. Oh yeah, that's a good point. So the need is, I guess, Rudolph needs to
be a part of the sleigh team, right?
Well, no, his need
No, this
is
is the
it's more
one
his
person's
flaw.
need.
It
Yeah.
needs to learn that he is okay who he is, and he
Right.
doesn't have to hide it. He has value.
He has
So it's
value.
kind of we've talked before about the different types of character arcs. One is confidence, and the other is learning to care more. And then the third corollary, I think, is to work as a team.
Work as a team. Those are the
Yep.
core three. Yes.
Yep. And this one's a confidence. This is one where somebody is being told that they're a misfit and they need to learn that they're not a misfit, they're special or whatever. So that's
They have
the
value is the perfect way to put it, like
I
you
think
did.
value's better because
Yeah,
he is a misfit, but it's not bad.
Yeah.
Being a misfit isn't bad. That's a lesson, right?
No, his difference here is his superpower.
Right.
So that's what he needs to learn. So Donner rejects that. Donner thinks he's a misfit. Donder. And then we have somebody like Hermie. And I think he teaches the need. I think he's confident in his misfitness to an extent. He's like, I quit, so he's kind of a teacher of the need.
I think so too. He's pretty passionate about his misfitness, He likes it.
He could
he's sad about it, but he's like, I'm a dentist.
Yeah. And the other one that kind of goes hand in hand, there's embodies the need, maybe embodies the need as well. I think Yukon Cornelius embodies the need. He's unapologetically himself.
Yes.
He's like, I'm a whimsical, eccentric adventurer, and I don't care about society. He gives 0 F's about societal norms, right?
Yeah.
The ghost of Christmas Present.
Yes.
Yep.
It's like that gregarious, just accept me for who I am.
I think somebody like Clarice, your lambs are still crying. So she is somebody who supports the need. She's like, I think this is what you need to know. You know what I mean? This is what you need to change in this way. So she's a support the need person. The misfit toys are people that need the need. They need to learn the same thing Rudolph needs to learn. So he learns from them that way. And then, there's other characters like Santa Claus, I think rejects the need. Strangely enough.
Yeah.
But I think they're the main characters that have that. So if you could, brainstorm your story, and when you're coming up with these characters and you're coming up with their intensity, also figure out how they fit in to that need, the thing your main hero needs to learn. How do your characters represent that, so that when they are talking, when they are taking action, it's an opportunity for a hero to observe, to interact, and to kind of philosophize about the need. And that's what that is.
Jamie, this tool, I don't know if I've said this before. I have helped so many clients with this tool. So I think it also works great. Unlike you saying, save the cat B sheets aren't great for retroactively fitting things into it. I think this tool that you've created is extremely helpful for retroactively trying to improve your material because usually what happens is what's usually the problem when I'm reading a script and the arc is not working and the theme is not working. It's because there aren't characters who are representing various facets of that arc that needs to happen, or that thematic lesson that needs to be learned. And what I usually do is I will take the cast and I'll write them down, and then I'll take your exercise here, and I will challenge the writer to say who goes where, and if you can't answer this question, how can you tweak this existing cast so that they are basically, I before you created this exercise, I called it the theme team. Like, you need a theme team, and that is the characters are basically in an arc plot movie, a Hollywood cheeseburger. The characters really are there to collectively make the main character and the audience learn the theme, right? And so what you want to do is you want to create an all-star team that gets you to understand all the different sides of this argument and why the character needs to learn how to change. And this exercise is a perfect way to do that. And if you can look at your characters And if you're out there listening and you're going like, I don't know that my characters do that, it's a really helpful thing to just like make a list, right? And who are like the main 5, right? And like, how can I just tweak it so that one of them is like a direct reflection, or one of them is the complete opposite? It's another way to look at it. But,
and I think it's the first step, and then the second step is journal a little paragraph about like why. You know what I mean? Like how, like it's because they grew up this way, and they need to learn this, or they're angry about this, or whatever. But do a little journal about how they represent the need, or how they teach the need, or how they reject the need. Do a little journaling is my suggestion.
That's in your book too, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure that a journal. I mean, my book is kind of a journal in general, so it probably something like that. Yep.
This is just me trying to sell more copies for Jamie.
Good Christmas present. They sell them at Barnes and Noble.
Stocking stuffers.
They also have a digital one now, right, Jamie? That you can
have a digital
reuse.
One. It's a very, very popular book to like give to that teenager who likes to write. You know what I mean?
I did not mean to turn this into a sales pitch.
That's fine.
No, but that of all the things that I've learned from you through this process, this is the one that I share the most with other people to try to help them.
You know what's really cool about this too is most people get stuck when they come up with their ensemble. They really they know the jobs. They're like, okay, this is the friend. This is the funny friend.
Rogue One.
They know the tropes. Yeah.
They know the tropes, but they have a hard time getting to the other dimension of them.
What it is they don't understand the function of a supporting character in a story. And they fall in love with the supporting character's story and their character, and they end up taking over the story and things like they don't understand the functions of supporting.
A lot of people are plot people, or they're character people, so I know plot, but then I just do tropes for characters. There are other people that do quirks and stuff for characters, and they think they're a character person because they're into backstory and things like that. But then they don't know how to put their characters in motion or set them up for conflict. And I think tools like this can help. Also, I think the Tensity tool is a really good tool for this too. It just gives you something to I don't know, prompt you. That it's really a prompt. It's a prompt.
They're engines for conflict. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, to close out this one, I'm sorry, Bob. To close out this one, the reason that I brought it up is I think that Rudolph is just a pure, simple, because it doesn't have to be so complex, right? It's pretty fucking simple. You get it. And it was the perfect time for this one. So
I was just gonna say, with all the James Gunn talk, my brain went instantly to ensembles and everything Jamie was saying. I'm just thinking of people who have recently mastered that.
Yes,
the Guardians trilogy. We talked about it. Yeah,
in Suicide Squad, it was under a different name. Jamie didn't have this yet. We just called it Agents of Change, and
Creature Commandos has that in spades.
Yes.
And if I had to think of an anti-example, I said Rogue One would be right there. If I had to think of like how
I think maybe one of these May 4th we should do it.
Anyway,
we'll get Gary Whitta on here. He's a pretty angry guy on social media.
Okay. Comic obsessions. We've talked about comic obsessions before. I don't know which one of you put this on here.
It's mine,
yours. But I know that the most popular one I always bring up that we talked about like year one of this podcast was Zombieland, Woody Harrelson, Twinkies, right?
Yes.
That's like the wife. That's just like for some reason that's burned in my brain.
That's the go-to in Bob's brain. Yes.
For this show, there's many of them, but for this show, it's just that's what I'm always reminded of.
I almost wonder. I almost wonder if it ties to Tensity too. I'm interested to hear what you came up with to see if they do tie to Tensity.
Yeah, it's probably you probably could pull it back to there. So for reference, we actually haven't done this in a very long time. I'm not even sure if we've done it at all this year. But we've done it to death in the past. And it is comic obsessions. These are comedy engines for your characters. So I learned this from a Robert McKee comedy seminar in like 1999, 25 years ago. Oh my God.
And comedy hasn't changed at all. I'm kidding.
Well, age is like spoiled milk, right? But what is a comic obsession? Put simply, it is when a character has a fixation or a behavior that to them is normal, but to other characters and the audience is extreme. And so we've done in the past some examples from the show. We've done Meg Ryan, Sally's complicated restaurant orders, and When Harry Met Sally. It is Randy's encyclopedic horror movie knowledge and Scream. He has a comedic obsession with horror movies. It's Ian Malcolm's chaos theory in Jurassic Park. Every time Ian Malcolm is on screen and he's being funny, it's all related to the chaos theory stuff that he's talking about. And most recently, so we did do it this year. Okay. Paul's obsession with historical references in The Holdovers is the most recent one we did. So, I mean, you guys can throw some out there before I did do it, but I would like to hear if anything comes off the top of your head.
You mean for Rudolph?
For the characters in this movie. Yeah.
Jamie?
I didn't brainstorm them, so why don't you just read yours?
Yeah. Okay.
I'll say one before you get to it.
Yeah.
Yukon, his obsession with finding a peppermint mine.
Yeah, finding that. Yeah, and silver and gold.
Silver and gold.
Hermes' dental obsession.
Absolutely. So that's his character intensity right there, Jamie, to your point. Yep. Like every scene, the reason he's funny is because he's talking about pulling people's teeth out. Then
Santa has a food obsession. I don't know.
Well, it's Mrs. Claus has the food obsession.
Mrs. Claus, yeah.
Every scene that she's in, she says, "Eat, eat."
Mrs. Claus's body shaming.
Yes, exactly. Pretty much.
She's like, "What? You gotta get fat. You can't be."
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And then I would say Yukon has another one, which is his fun facts about Bumble. You know, there's every couple scenes he's like, "I didn't tell you, Bumbles do this." You know, so that he definitely has a comic obsession with his Bumble facts. So it was just fun to see that a 1964 movie was still using this technique, man. Yeah, it tracks.
I mean, Yukon is. I mean, he's pure comic relief.
Yes.
So yeah, him having like 3 makes sense.
It does.
Yeah. Creating toyetic characters, the action figure exercise.
Yes, this is mine, and we haven't done this in a long time too. But I figured with this one, the action figures, I see them every year in the store. So
I have the entire collection that came out at CVS like 20 years ago.
That's
I remember that. I remember when they came out.
I have them all. They're upstairs.
You should just grab them and read them off. We were going to do this offhand. You could have just read the literal box, describe the box that was in front of you. No, but I'm gonna Jamie, where did this phrase toyetic come from? I always pop quiz you on this because I don't know where it originated. Toyetic is a thing.
I don't remember specifically where I heard it, but it's just one of those phrases that people would get asked in meetings, like it's not toyetic enough, and it basically just meant, can we make action figures out of your idea?
Yeah.
You know, it's just one of these benchmarks people were trying to have for projects at some point, 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, and I heard that phrase from you, and that inspired this. That coupled with what I'm going to explain, inspired this exercise.
Honestly, I think I remember I had a co-writer who got asked that in a pitch meeting, and I had heard the term in another place, but he used to always tell that story that somebody said.
The point is that there are people who are making the decisions about your script who are thinking about this. Mm-hmm. It's on their mind, and it's something you need to think about. So where this came from, I created this for my clients, which is I read amateur scripts all day, every day. I don't think I've said that bingo card thing, but there it is. And one of the most common problems with the scripts that I read is there's almost no visual information about any of the characters for the entire script on purpose. So a lot of people are afraid. So there's an intense amount of focus on the character development and the description and understanding of their inner qualities, which is great. You want that, you need that. But we live in a time where a lot of writers are afraid to distinctly describe the characters for like representation purposes, and like worried about casting them before there's a casting process, and representation and worrying about those things is important, but you have to describe what your characters look like. That is your job. We need to see them on the page, and you can't write a script without describing your characters. And it sounds obvious, but I'm telling you, like, I read so many scripts where I'm highlighting the character description because as a negative, because there's nothing visual. I'm only getting the internals. And so I'll go down the little different parts of this exercise, and I figure we can just riff on the characters. So the prompts I try to give. So when I read a script that doesn't have any visuals for any of the characters, I give my client the action figure exercise and say, okay, I need you to do this exercise for like the big five in your story. Like, what the hell do they look like? And we've talked about in the past, like Bob, I remember doing a really entertaining riff on this, is like, even Wayne has a great action figure box, like with his hat and his Wayne and Garth are great action figures, and they're just like ordinary
they don't change their
people.
clothes.
Yeah. They're not, this doesn't have to be just for like genre stuff, you know. It doesn't have to be just for The Princess Bride or you know, a sci-fi. We're talking about even just like your dramas and your romances. You need to do this. The prompts are unique physical appearance. This is less about attractiveness and more about their physicality. Like, I use the example Raiders of the Lost Ark. Imagine if on the page, when he's fighting that like 6'5" Nazi soldier, if you didn't describe Indiana Jones as an ordinary man, and you didn't describe the Nazi soldier as a gigantic beast of a man fighting, then you're reading that scene and you don't have a sense of scale and contrast with the fight. And it's just the fight becomes bland because you don't know the physicality of each character. But I'm reading scripts all the time where I don't know what the character physically looks like. I can't tell you anything about them. So you got to describe their unique physical appearance. And this can include haircut, things like that. Costume, what clothes are in your character's closet during the course of the movie? And if you brainstorm this stuff, you know, how many Luke Skywalker figures are there in for each movie? Because there's all these scenarios that motivate costume changes, and you know, there's your alt versions of the figure when they're wearing different costumes, and kind of challenging yourself to think a bit about this. It will end up making you brainstorm interesting, you know, ideas for the movie. Accessories, what things, premise specific things best represent your character? The accessories will help you come up with ideas for scenes too, right? Scars, birthmarks, tattoos, or stains. Do they have any of these when you meet them? Or do they have any of these, like, is the alt figure the version that of your character who got a scar or a birthmark or a tattoo or a stain during the process, right? Your ash covered with blood alt figure instead of the ash with no blood figure. This is another way to brainstorm, you know, ideas for your movie itself. And then the last one is the pull string quotes, the catchphrases. So I want to, this is another part of the activity to challenge you to like specify the voice of your character that goes along with this. And if you can like come up with just like a little bit of like quick things that they might say that only they could say based on all these other ideas, it's another way to like make them more interesting and make them pop. So do they have a signature catchphrase? Do they have a signature voice? And these lines that when you pull the string, they would be there. So and so that's it. You guys want to, what do you want to do first? You want to do Sam the Snowman?
Yeah, go down the list.
Yeah, Sam the Snowman.
Well, unique physical appearance. He's a snowman with
yeah,
with a mustache.
Mm-hmm.
That's about right. A mustache.
Yeah, he's got glasses and a
beard.
goatee. Yeah. Costume.
Wearing a vest, a hat, and glasses. Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Very distinct hat and glasses.
Does he have a cane?
He does have a cane. Yeah. So the accessories, he's got a cane. He's got an
umbrella.
Acoustic guitar. Yeah, he's got an umbrella.
Umbrella, right?
He's got a banjo.
A helper steel.
Yeah, I mean, he's got all of those things would come. Are they in the box, Jamie? Does he come with the banjo?
I have these stuffed animals, not the actual toys.
Okay.
They're like little stuffed
probably
animals.
has the deluxe edition.
Yeah.
What about, he doesn't have any scars or birthmarks, but what about pull string quotes?
I don't know.
Yes, absolutely. If I bought that, if I went into a store in the toy section and pulled his string, he would absolutely say that.
Probably Holly Jolly Christmas in some ways.
Yeah, it would be singing.
Yeah.
It would be singing.
I wrote that down, and I wrote the Silver and Gold song, Silver and Gold.
Mm-hmm.
So all three of
Earl
those,
Ives singing.
Yeah,
yeah.
I feel like all three of those are distinctly that guy, and you could put that in the box. Yukon Cornelius, physical appearance.
He's a big man, a big white guy.
Burly is what I put.
Burly,
beard and
he's got a big
hair.
red beard. Yep. That's memorable.
Kind of a Viking.
Yes, he's like a Viking. Yeah, Christmas Viking costume.
Norsey. Yeah,
Norsey. Yes.
Costume, his boots, his hat. You know,
he's a backpacker.
He's got the backpacker costume. Yeah. Yes. All that's very distinct. It's like very colorful. He's got
accessories, pickaxe. Basically, pickaxe, sled dogs.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can like just ramble those off. That's why it's so good. He doesn't have any scars, but I bet he does. Like, you don't see him. Pull string quotes. He's got some fun ones.
Jamie, I feel like this is you.
Yeah. I don't. I mean, I'm stumped right now, but I know
sound when he licks his pickaxe.
Yeah. This fog's as thick as peanut butter.
That's good.
That captures his character.
Yeah, it's good.
Bumble's bounce.
What does he say when he's pushing the rock on top of Bumble? He says something there.
He does.
It's pretty funny. I don't remember.
I can't remember either.
I think he says, "Hasta la vista, baby."
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's it, dude. You're right.
Yeah.
Hermie.
He's an elf with human eyes.
Yeah, big gigantic round eyes. Yep.
The blonde hair,
pupils.
The Ellen haircut.
He's got the blonde spiky hair. Yep.
I don't know if it's Ellen.
And the big ears.
He's got visible teeth. That look like they're kind of separated
because of his dentistry. That was a good way to. That was a good way to, like, make him memorable about his quirk. Yeah, and he's got like a colorful turtleneck costume and red pointy shoes and white leggings.
He's got standardized elf accessories and costume.
Yeah, so he's got some memorable accessory, the dental pulling, the teeth pulling wrench,
and he's got a book, right? Isn't he reading a book?
Yes, he's got. Yep, I think it's a dentist.
That's what I'm saying. It's a dentist.
Yeah,
book.
It's a dentist instruction.
Right.
Those things would absolutely be in the box. So the point is that's what makes him memorable, right? Those accessories are part of what makes him memorable.
No stars. I want to be a dentist.
I want to be a dentist, and we can be independent together.
We're misfits.
We're misfits. All of those I feel like would be appropriate pull strings. And they distinctly capture who he is. So the point is, these are there. They did this on purpose to sell toys. And that's what makes the characters memorable. But I think even Bumble is a very memorable figure, even though he's a gigantic one. Yeah.
Physical appearance, he's a Yeti.
Yep.
He has no costume, but he's a Yeti.
Yeah, that's enough.
His claws.
The Christmas star, dude.
Christmas star. Right?
Absolutely, the Christmas star would be in his box. And I feel like he would have like either two figures or his teeth would be removable, so that you could make him have the two looks, right. And then his pull string is just his signature growls and roars, which are very memorable. I guarantee you there's a Bumble figure out there that
makes noises, definitely.
So anyway, I think this is another great example of like one of the reasons. I mean, of course it's an animation movie, so it's going to be colorful and the characters are going to pop like toys. But the point is, this is something that a lot of writers are not doing. A lot of writers are not prioritizing this at all. They're prioritizing all the other things we talk about, but as far as the visual aspects of their character and what makes them interesting, I think you just need to you need to prioritize this if you're out there and you're writing scripts. These are things you need to be thinking about, and these are things that belong in the script. There's a lot of people who are afraid to like put these details. Well, that's the costume designer's choice. No, your job is to write the costume. Their job is to execute the costume. They don't pick what they look like. You pick what they look like. So don't be afraid to describe them.
in my opinion, this is the kind of this specific exercise, I might have said it before, is what makes characters iconic and last way beyond the movies themselves.
Yes.
Like Indiana Jones, like Quint from Jaws. I don't know, Bill and Ted. I don't know, like, you know what I mean?
Bill and Ted.
Yeah, like
the Bill and Ted would have great action figures if we did this.
So
if people can make costumes at Halloween of them.
That was what I was about to say.
Yeah, what's your Halloween costume? Yes.
That was Terry Rossio used to have that rule. If we can't make a Halloween costume out of them, they're not interesting.
Right.
So that
visually
was
interesting.
his
Yeah.
thing.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay. The Halloween costume approach is another good way to articulate this. You got to think about what's your costume for each. I mean, and you can go down the list of any great TV show that's not genre, that's not like a horror or action or like a period piece. And they do this, right? Like, shoot, Ned Ryerson is a great action figure, like trench coat, hat, briefcase. Dude is like, shit sells itself. Like, he's so memorable visually, even if he doesn't say a thing. He's got he's got great pull string quotes. Phil,
right.
Watch that first step. It's a doozy. So anyway, this is just this is an exercise that I think you should consider doing.
Good stuff. Villain construction. Putting faces on the societal.
Yes. This is another one that's mine that it's kind of like works in tandem with Jamie's ensemble assemble, because like if we start talking about it, we're basically going to be repeating what Jamie was teaching in through a different lens. So I definitely didn't expect that this was going to be on the list of from this movie, but like when I left the movie, I was like, oh shit, this is just like everybody in that society sucked. This movie was saying that.
It's honestly where my head went with the genre discussion, was that institutionalized or full triumphant, because society is the villain in this particular movie. I mean, as much as Bumble is a, villain in some ways,
he's added to make some like traditional antagonism, but
that's right.
No, so we've done, okay. So that's a great example is Nurse Ratched in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is the face of the societal ill that movie is exploring. So this technique is when you have a movie where society is the villain, you can also have your like primary villain, but when the main focus of the piece is society is the problem, and your character needs to just become aware that it's not me, it's society that I'm in. The first thing you need to do is you need to create characters who are the many faces of that societal ill, and that's how the story teaches the character and the audience about what that societal problem is that the character needs to overcome.
So we got Santa, Donner, right?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Basically all the reindeers except Clarice.
Yeah. I even broke it down a little bit more. They're kind of it feels very intentional. They're kind of going through all the facets of society. The workplace is the head elf, right? Like the head elf is telling Hermie, he's on the assembly line, and the workplace version of the conformity ill is you got to be just like all the other workers on the assembly line. And then they got the parents, right? Like Donner, like you said, they've got the parent side of conformity. The parents are trying to.
Did they give a name to his mom?
I want to say, I'm sure they did, but I didn't remember.
I feel bad.
She only has a couple lines, so and then to your point, Jamie, like Santa is the face of the institution.
He is the institution. Yeah, he's Christmas. He's got the final say here. There's no one higher than Santa.
And he's absolutely like, Rudolph, you suck because you have a red nose.
He literally tells Donner he's ashamed of him
for
giving birth to his son.
So, and some other great examples if you want to learn about this, not just through Rudolph, but through other movies, is we did a Morton Joe and Fury Road as the face of barbarian dictatorship and patriarchy. the mayor in Jaws is the face of profits over people. But if you go around Jaws, all of the little small antagonistic figures are all different, all expressing different versions of that profits over. Who cares about the people? Profits for the town. And all of the antagonists in a league of their own are misogyny and placing the limitations on women based on their gender. And they're even listening to, in the movie, a broadcast of like one of that time's great quote unquote feminist minded thinkers, and she's basically telling them to like give in to the patriarchy in the radio broadcast. Everything, all the antagonists in Barbie. So this is a tool, and when we did it in Legally Blonde. This is a way to really dramatize that another version of that ensemble assemble, right, Jamie?
Exactly.
Yeah, so, but this Rudolph is just oozing with it.
I mean, it's literally about social conformity. That's what this is about. So
I definitely forgot about that, and then I remembered the meme. What is the meme? I wrote it down. There's a meme that's famous, and it's like a picture of like Smiley Rudolph from the special, and it says, "Deviation from the norm will be punished unless it's exploitable." And that is the movie. That meme goes around every Christmas. And I dug it up for this. But yeah, heavy shit.
Okay. Is that everything on that?
Yeah.
Okay. So the power of rewriting.
And Bob, you can take the lead on the next one because it's crazy.
Well, only one of these points is mine.
Yeah.
I didn't actually know about the other one that's on here.
Okay, so when I watched the movie, I was confused because I actually had never seen the original. I watched the current version, and the song "We're a Couple of Misfits" is now returned.
Where did you watch it again?
On a DVD. I watched it on DVD. That I had. I just never watched it. Okay. It was on like a comp with like all the big ones. And I was surprised to find after I ended, I was like, wait, I know this song called Fame and Fortune. And so I was surprised to find that the original version had We're a Couple of Misfits, which celebrates being different and explores the theme and the lesson that, and the strife of those characters. And the version then, so what happened was, after the special was over and they decided to air it again, they made a new song. And the new song was because they were like, it's too sad. We're a Couple of Misfits is too sad. So they replaced it with Fame and Fortune. And Fame and Fortune was what everybody saw from 1965 to 1998. And then in 1998, they found the original reels and they remastered them and put it back in. And so ever since 1998, We're a Couple of Misfits has been back to its original intent. But I think what's interesting about that, like, is Fame and Fortune. I don't know if you know the song. Do you guys know it? That version?
No, that wasn't.
Oh,
I don't remember it.
So Jamie, do you know it?
I know of it, but I can't sing that song.
So Fame and Fortune.
I'm sure I heard it.
It's the antithesis of the movie. They basically say, okay, like, the solution to this problem is we'll just become rich and famous, and then everybody will like us because we're rich and famous. So it like undermines the whole movie.
Also, just it's
why Crispin Glover wouldn't do it.
Yeah, right. But also, like, their society has no mechanisms for them to. Never mind. It doesn't matter.
So, but
that's
anyway,
why they changed it, right?
For most of its run, that was what everybody saw.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just think the power of rewriting, right? We've talked about so many times, like, these things that are classics, sometimes they didn't start out with everything as perfect and emotionally resonant as they are now. And this is an example of how they had it right to start with, and they overcorrected, which we all have a tendency to do, right? They just kept messing with it. Yeah, so the ending they changed, I mean the song they changed it to promotes conformity.
And they took it out in 1998.
No, so it was from 1965 to 1998 was Fame and Fortune, and then they found an old original version and they remastered it and put it back in, and that became back to this We're a Couple of Misfits. The 1964 original version is what they are. Gotcha. What it is now that everybody sees. So it's back to what we all three of us watched last night.
It took him 32 years or whatever.
Right. Yeah, so many people grew up with the Fame and Fortune song.
The Fame and Fortune, let's get rich, and then
I'd have to look that up because I don't really remember. I kind of remember it, but I don't remember it. Yeah,
it's the Temple of Doom song, right? Fortune and Glory, right? Yeah. So on this same notion, I learned that in the original 1964 broadcast, they promised to tell Santa about the Misfit toys, but they never do, and we never see the Misfit toys again. And after this aired, apparently they got so many letters from children. Children wrote so many angry letters to the network. They ended up filming that little snippet at the end with the Misfit toys getting picked up by Santa.
Can you imagine?
I just can't fathom not having that in there. It's nuts.
So shitty.
It's so shitty. It's amazing.
It's also such a good payoff to the movie.
Yeah,
it's right. like to think they didn't have that good payoff.
It seems like strange. Common sense, right?
Yeah, it's incredible that there was the original vision for this didn't include that.
It's feasible too. I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt that money, time, maybe even runtime with Aaron.
Could be runtime. That's what
they were like, well, let's just end it right here. Yeah, I can understand that happening with a claim, a stop motion thing back in 1960.
But there's nothing out there to suggest that was the reason.
No, there isn't.
Everything that because I found this out too, Bob, after watching it when doing some research for this episode, and every video and article I found, there's no evidence to suggest what you just said to try to forgive it.
Also,
it's just that they didn't realize that was shitty.
It feels in line with like how overly shitty Santa comes off.
Santa is
like Santa's such an asshole. It's like, yeah, this seems like a fitting ending. It just ends. Nobody cares a crap about the Misfits.
Who cares about the Misfits? So,
right.
so basically the original, on the opposite side of what I just described about the two songs, the original ending undermined the theme.
Right,
like totally. It was basically like they're not special, they don't have value, and fuck them, and
forget about it. They are useless.
And so I think what's cool. So
also, know what's funny is we didn't even mention Moonracer.
Mm-hmm.
I know
at all. We didn't say anything about him this entire episode, and that I don't know. Just the thought of him and the plot of what that is, and then. What is he going to do now? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
He doesn't have an ending. He has no ending.
Well, was Moonracer a Misfit toy?
No.
That just was elected king?
He was the...
He's some kind of living god that can comb the entire planet every night.
Every night, yeah.
And they never go back to him or explain.
But I think it's cool that...
He became Krampus. Cool.
Yeah, right.
That's what happened.
He also lived in a castle. Awesome. I just want to say he lived in a castle, and when he says that you guys can have a room for the night, they're sleeping in a little hut down in the forest. He didn't even let them stay in the castle. Everybody in this is such a jerk. It's awesome. The guy has this power to look the entire planet over every night. Yeah, sleep in a little hut. Yukon can't even lay down. He's just sitting up.
Oh man,
I'm sorry. It's just really...
no, it's hilarious.
I do love this movie. Just under a microscope is pretty funny.
Yeah,
some funny stuff.
There's some weird more than
choices.
anything.
Like Moonracer's a weird thing. A
Yeah.
flying lion that lives in a castle. Why not just have an island where the Misfit toys live? Why did you need him? What?
Yeah, maybe they thought they had they had to explain how they got there.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think it's instructive to show that I think it speaks to like what we talk about a lot with the arc plot, right? You have to close the story loops when you establish them. You have to big subplots have to be paid off, and if they're not, then the audience walks away very dissatisfied and unfulfilled. And I think it's instructive to show that even like now it's considered a classic, but if it had kept that first ending, it probably wouldn't have lasted all of this time.
It'd be a little bit less of a classic. I think it's still
the Misfits aren't special.
I think
Jamie them.
It's like Jamie a couple of years ago during this podcast, you said something. You were like, everything we talk about a lot of stuff, but then you were like, it's all setups and payoffs.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what I remember you saying that, and that always stuck with me because that's like the thing I remember most when I'm writing.
Yeah,
not having that payoff is just nuts.
Yeah, it's weird.
That is nuts. It's so nuts. It's such an
like
obvious
on purpose.
It's like of all the things to do to forget, that is
they basically established that they're like nobody cares about us, and then they're like, yep.
Yeah, it's just so weird. It's I don't know. I mean, the other thing is it's in the title. It's not like some side thing, but it's actually in the title, right? The Land of the Misfit Toys or whatever. It's like it
almost reminds me of the Coen brothers forgetting to give the dude his rug back.
Yeah,
but there's something funny about that. Like that's a comedy, so it's like it kind of works.
That fits.
But if you ever listen to the commentary of Big Lebowski, they go, "Oh, yeah, we probably should have given him his rug back." It's on the commentary track. Like they realized it while they were rewatching the movie. I think that's all of our talking points.
Yeah.
Unless you guys have anything else you'd like to add about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. No? Do you guys have anything that you would like to plug? Jamie?
It's Jamie's birthday. Did we say that?
Oh, happy birthday, Jamie.
Yep.
Happy birthday, Jamie.
Also, happy birthay, Eduardo Sanchez, our only guest.
Our only guest.
On purpose, intentionally, our only guest, and will ever be.
I love that we remember. We have to say that since we all get requests.
Yeah, don't offer to be a guest. We're not going to say yes.
That's right. We'll be a guest on your podcast. Well, yeah, I will. But
to be a guest on the show, you have to have directed the Blair Witch Project movie and Star Trek.
Yeah. Jamie, do you have stuff to plug?
No, I don't really have anything to plug right now. I wish I could say watch Two Front Teeth. Turns out that's coming out next year on release.
Okay.
We didn't quite make it to this year. I'm trying to think. My other movies and stuff like Santa Hunters you can watch if you have kids, or Tiny Christmas you can watch if you have some kids around. Where
are they?
I think they're Paramount. They're both on Paramount, which is where all the Nickelodeon stuff goes. Or you can buy them. You can rent them. You can rent them. Yep.
Hell yeah. I have a Christmas thing to plug. I edited a graphic novel. It's fucking awesome. I'm really proud of it and really honored to be a part of it. And it was a really cool experience. It is called Taft Sturgeon Holiday in the Stars, and it is by my friend David Crispino, and the story and art are also by my friend Tony Gregori. And you can find that on, so to I'm not going to pitch it, but it's a sci-fi holiday adventure set during the intergalactic Christmas season. So it's got black holes and robots and the planet North Pole and alien elves and holiday hot rod spaceships driven by alien reindeer. And it's kind of like, if you can imagine John Candy in space, not Spaceballs, like in like a legit space adventure. Taft Sturgeon is very John Candy inspired character. And you can find that on davidcrispino.com. And there's also some other comics on there one specifically called Ancient Noise that I also edited. So yeah, I edit comics as well.
I donated to both those campaigns, and I've read those books. They're
awesome.
Good. So
yeah, they're beautiful. They're so well crafted.
Yeah, no, artwork's great, everything. I'm giving my second ding to your plug.
I had to Google something because I was a little confused. I thought Rudolph and the Island of the Misfit Toys I thought they renamed it like Indiana Jones or A New Hope, but apparently that was a 2001 computer animated sequel, which I never saw.
Yes, I didn't want to like correct you and like, you know, push my glasses up to my face and be like, well, actually,
that sequel's rough. Let me tell you.
It was funny because I was like, did they rename it? Because I had that in my head, like they renamed it as the title, but that is not the title.
No, it's just Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Yeah.
It's rough. I want to say two more things. Number one, ever since we did the questions episode, which was in like July, we haven't gotten any emails. It's pretty fucking funny.
That's weird.
Everybody's just like,
we answered all the questions.
We get it.
Yeah,
it's enough.
We get it. Yeah, we don't want them like answering our questions.
We don't want a whole episode dedicated to questions.
So if you have any questions, really about anything,
I would love
to us in the show.
I would love questions. I think Jamie definitely would love them. If you just ask us our favorite, like, hey, everybody list your top 5 shark movies or some shit like that.
Yeah, man,
or
just randomly.
Top 5 movies.
Yeah, they can be weird questions. Sure.
Yeah. Like I would love that. That'd be really fun.
If I can make a list, that'd be great.
Yeah, that's really all I want to do is make lists.
Jamie can make a list.
I want Jamie to make lists. And I want to make lists with Jamie. That's all I really, really want.
Absolutely.
I love it. Jamie's like, please give me a reason to make a list.
Yeah.
That should be our next podcast. It should just be all lists.
List.
Was it the title's just lists?
Yeah, but
we
should even speak like in lists, like when Bob, now we're going to list our hosts, and you can do the top 3 hosts. Exactly.
Top 3 hosts.
But anyway, if you have questions about the craft, about an episode we just did, about any other thing, you can send them to writersblockbusterspodcast@gmail.com. And then the last thing I would say, this is the season 7 finale, technically. So 7 years, dudes.
Is it 7 years? I thought
7 years.
Okay. It's hard
to
get
I mean, calendar years will be starting like the calendar. It's complicated, but like
2025 is the 8th year in which we'll be doing it during.
Yes, but the 7th season of this show. Yes.
And we're still waiting to see if Podbean renews for next season, right?
Right. What? Oh. No. I haven't used Podbean in a while.
Whatever.
7 years.
Podbean was funnier than Apple. It just sounds funny.
It was. But there's about 500 of you out there that listen. So thank you for listening. And yeah, we got
thank you. Yeah, seriously. Thank you for following us to the we definitely shook this podcast up more than once. But the big shake up, everyone who's listening right now, thank you for following us from the old feed. That was how many years ago? I don't even remember anything. It was like probably 2 years ago.
It was 2 years ago. Yeah.
7 years. Holy shit.
Yeah, man.
Right. So I would say to celebrate that, send us questions.
Yeah.
That's how you celebrate. Send us questions.
Yeah, man. Let's do it.
And I really want to iterate. They can be weird. They could be about craft, but also I just like discussion topics about movies, because you give us an excuse to talk about maybe movies in a way we don't normally get to.
Exactly. That would be fun.
Nice.
Yes.
Let us have an excuse to talk about a whole franchise or what we think of it, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Stuff we don't normally cover,
Yeah. I think that would be awesome.
Right. That'd be cool. I think that's everything, guys.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, all that stuff.
Yeah, Happy Holidays. That's the gray statement, right? The safe statement. Happy Holidays.
Happy Holidays, everyone.
Yeah. I think, if you're doing a Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, you cross the line into offensive holiday material.
Oh, yeah, straight up.
Yeah, we already did. It's too late. Too late to take it back.
Merry Christmas.
There you go. That's very Grinch-like.
Hey, this is Bob Rose, and thank you for listening to Writers Blockbusters. If you'd like to financially support the show, please consider joining my Patreon. I've been producing the podcast for several years completely out of pocket, and I'd like to keep producing it ad-free and no longer at a loss. If you'd like to help, head on over to patreon.com/Bob Rose Sucks. That's right, Bob Rose Sucks. And if you want the one and only Jimmy George to help polish up that writing project you're kind of struggling with, head on over to scriptbutcher.com. As a listener, you already know he's the best there is, scriptbutcher.com. You can also support the show by simply sharing it or leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We appreciate both. Thank you for listening, and see you next episode.